Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Nandana Yashodanandana Brajajana Yashodanandana Brajajana Nandana Yashodanandana Brajajana Nandana Yamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You can begin. You're expecting more.
We're expecting more, but I think we can begin.
So thank you for coming on Saturday evening. Slight change in schedule. So today we'll celebrate Sri Ram Navami. Ram Navami falls on Tuesday, so we're celebrating Ram Navami today because as part of our weekly program. So we'll sing one more bhajan. The words are simple so you can follow. Lord Ramchandra, Lord Krishna are not different, the same person. So let's not be confused with what we're singing. So singing about the same person. Ayodhya Vasi Ram, Ayodhya Vasi Ram, Ayodhya Vasi Ram, Ayodhya Vasi Ram, Ram 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 Ram, Dasharatha Nandana Ram Ram, Dasharatha Nandana Ram Dasharatha Nandana Ram Dasharatha Nandana Ayodhya Vasi Ram, Ayodhya Vasi Ram, Ayodhya Vasi Ram, Ayodhya Vasi Ram, Ram 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 Ram, Dasharatha Nandana Ram Dasharatha Nandana Ram Dasharatha Nandana Ram Dasharatha Nandana Ram Patita Pavana Janaki Jeevana, 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 Sita Mohan Ram Ram, Sita Mohan Ram Sita Mohan Ram Sita Mohan Ram Dasharatha Nandana Ram Dasharatha Nandana Ram Dasharatha Nandana Ram Dasharatha Nandana Ram Ayodhya Vasi Ram, Ayodhya Vasi Ram, Ayodhya Vasi Ram, Ayodhya Vasi Ram, Ram 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 Dasharatha Nandana Ram Dasharatha Nandana Ram पावन जानकी जीवन पतित पावन जानकी जीवन पतित पावन जानकी जीवन पतित पावन जानकी जीवन सीता मोहन राम राम सीता मोहन राम सीता मोहन राम सीता मोहन राम बोलो पतित पावन जानकी जीवन पतित पावन जानकी जीवन पतित पावन जानकी जीवन पतित पावन जानकी जीवन सीता मोहन राम सीता मोहन राम सीता मोहन राम सीता मोहन दशरथ नंदन राम दशरथ नंदन राम दशरथ नंदन राम दशरथ नंदन पतित पावन जानकी जीवन पतित पावन जानकी जीवन पतित पावन जानकी जीवन पतित पावन जानकी जीवन सीता मोहन राम सीता मोहन राम सीता मोहन राम सीता मोहन दशरथ नंदन राम दशरथ नंदन Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna
Hari Bol.
Nice person, I like
Very
that.
good.
Very simple,
Hari
very
Bol.
nice. Very nice. So, as I was saying, on Tuesday is Ram Navami. I was talking to Dear Krishna Prabhu and I thought maybe we can just glorify Lord Ramchandra. So, again, it's not possible to speak whole Ramayana in 1 hour or anything like that. But what I was thinking is, maybe I can speak about some of the lessons we can learn from various personalities in Ramayana, and then open it up for questions, and anybody has any questions or comments, we can discuss deeper on those specific topics. So there are many, just like Lord's pastimes are unlimited, many devotees have written pastimes about Lord Ramchandra. So the prominent pastimes are written in Valmiki Ramayana. There are many other Ramayans which other devotees have written, and these are all based on realizations and their realizations that they have seen. So they are all, and the Lord's pastimes are unlimited. So there are many slightly different versions of the pastimes, and they are all valid. It's not like one says one thing, the other says something else. So this is valid. They're all valid. Just a question of, that perspective, and that devotee saw that perspective of the Lord and he wrote that. So my study is mostly Valmiki Ramayana. Devotees from North India are very familiar with Ramcharitamanas. I'm not very familiar with Ramcharitamanas. My study is more of Valmiki Ramayana, so I'll speak more from Valmiki Ramayana. But the premise is the same, the idea is the same, the whole concept is the same. And the lessons we can learn about the personalities is also the same. So, I'll speak about some very specific personalities and how they had relationship with Lord Ramchandra, how the Lord reciprocated with them. Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatham mam prapadyante tam stathaiva bhajamyam mama vartman vartante manusya pata sarvasha. That means, however you reciprocate with me, I will reciprocate back with you. This is a very deep verse, very interesting verse, because we realize that how we want to reciprocate with God is how He reciprocates back with us. So, there are other verses in the Gita also which say, there's in 15th chapter, verse 15, which says, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matta smriti jnanam apohanam cha vedescha sarvam aham he vedyo vedanta krit veda videha chaham. So which means, Krishna is saying, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto, means I'm sitting in everyone's heart. Everyone's. Whether you believe in God or not, it's still sitting in our heart. Matta smriti jnanam apohanam cha. So from him, from Krishna, he says, comes smriti, means remembrance. Jnanam is knowledge, apohanam means forgetfulness. So if you want to forget Krishna, even that ability to forget Krishna comes from Krishna. And Vedesha sarvam aham e vedyo, which means Krishna is saying, I am to be known from all the Vedas. The study of the Vedas will result in understanding that Krishna is God. If that is not the understanding, that is not the conclusion, then it is a waste. Bhagavatam also says that any activity which ultimately does not result in bhakti to the Supreme Lord, Bhagavatam defines it as shrama evahi kevalam, which means that simply useless labor. Because the goal is not achieved, it's just waste of time. So Bhagavatam doesn't mince any words. Bhagavatam, Prabhupada writes in the purport very clearly that people, there's a verse in the Bhagavatam in the first canto, second chapter. Second chapter is like all dynamite in Bhagavatam. So if you think the Bhagavatam is too intimidating and it's too many cantos, and if you don't really have much time, read first canto. Prabhupada has got everything in the first canto of the Bhagavatam. So Prabhupada writes in the purport that the people who are thoroughly honest will accept the Bhagavatam because it will bring a revolution in the hearts of men. So the objective of the Bhagavatam is to bring a revolution in our heart. When we hear Krishna Katha, hear pastimes of the Lord, the objective is that it should bring a revolution, it should bring a change in our heart. It's not like, and Bhagavatam and Krishna Katha has to be heard from bona fide person. So what makes a person bona fide? What makes a person bona fide? When I say Bhagavatam should be heard from bona fide person, what makes a person bona fide? What makes a person bona fide is the fact that he's speaking from parampara. He's speaking from disciplic succession. That is what makes it bona fide. So when we are all hearing Bhagavatam, when I say hearing or speaking, hearing Krishna Katha, I use the word hearing because I'm not speaking, I'm also hearing, because I'm simply repeating the words that I've heard from my Guru and the parampara, which means that I'm also hearing. So although I might be speaking, playing the role of a speaker, I'm not actually speaking. I'm also hearing and relishing the words that I heard from my Guru Parampara. So as a service, I'm repeating the words and maybe I'm seeming like a speaker, but the reality is I'm not a speaker, I'm also a hearer. Because I'm simply repeating the words that I heard from my Guru Maharaj, which is what makes it bona fide. If I was simply speaking my opinions, it would have no value. But my opinions really don't have any value. But because I'm repeating simply and trying to repeat sincerely the words of my spiritual master, who then heard from Srila Prabhupada and then Parampara, that's what makes it bona fide. So then I can stand up and discuss with anybody and say this is completely bona fide. There's no question of it being incorrect. So because otherwise opinions have no meaning. That's why I wanted to make that point. So we have to hear from bona fide persons, because otherwise all the opinions and ideas that may not be valid start becoming impurities in our understanding of Krishna Katha. And if you don't understand Krishna Katha properly, then we will not find the transformation in our heart. So sometimes, people, they hear so many Bhagavad Saptas and so many other things, and after the Sapta is over, the person who speaks the Sapta also goes away, and these people also go back to their regular lives, and there's no change in heart. Why? Because there's no transformation. Because the idea of Bhagavatam is it has to make a revolution and transformation in our heart. If that's not happening, then there's something wrong. That's the whole idea. So, Ramayana has so many personalities. It's full of beautiful personalities who have beautiful pastimes. And I'll speak about maybe a few of those personalities. So, Ramayana is broken into many sections or kandas. You have Bala Kanda, you have the Ayodhya Kanda, Aranya Kanda, Kishkinda Kanda, Sundar Kanda, Yuddha Kanda, and so on and so forth. Many different sections. And by and large, all the Ramayans follow a similar structure, so it's like very similar. So one of the points I wanted to discuss is this Balakanda section. If you read the Balakanda of Ramayana, what does Bala mean? Child, right? But if you read the Balakanda of Ramayana, unlike if you read the Bhagavatam, or if you read like the first part of the Bhagavatam, 10th canto, there's a lot of description of baby Krishna. How he was a little baby, Putana came when he was just a few days old, Trinavarta came when he was just a few months old. So all these pastimes are very detailed. And then there are a lot of other books that have a lot of detailed pastimes. But the Balakanda of Ramayana doesn't really have that much detailed pastime of the babyhood of Lord Ramchandra. So why is it called Balakanda then? So the Acharyas comment why it is called Balakanda. So the Sri Vaishnava Acharyas have written a lot of commentary on the Ramayana, and so I'll speak from some of that. So when Lord Ramchandra was just a mere boy, Lord Ramchandra, Lakshman, they were all mere boys, maybe like Anirudh and Sivrat in that age, right? Young boys. So this great sage, his name was Vishwamitra, he came. Vishwamitra Rishi, he came to the kingdom of Dashrath, Maharaj Dashrath. And so, at that point, when Dashrath Maharaj heard that Vishwamitra Muni has come to his kingdom, so immediately he got up and he went to the border of the kingdom and invited him. He said, please come, and he gave him his throne. So the idea was, in those days, when Maharaj Dashrath, when Vishwamitra came, he didn't pretend to be the king and say, I'm the king, so what do you want from me? He offered his throne to Maharaj Dashrath, and Maharaj Dashrath sat on the throne of, Vishwamitra sat on the throne of Maharaj Dashrath. So the idea was that they were not so attached to their throne. And it's not like he ordered Vishwamitra Muni, well, how can I serve you? Yes, how can I serve you? Vishwamitra said, let's see, when we are performing these sacrifices in the forest, then all these demons and Rakshasas, they come and they create havoc. They throw all sorts of impure substances, like they pass urine in the fire and so on and so forth. They do all sorts of things. And they make it very impure. So it is not possible for us to perform these sacrifices in the forest anymore because of these demons who are creating so much havoc. So I would like your two sons, Ram and Lakshman, to come with me to protect us in the forest. So before that, Vishwamitra actually asked him that, whatever I ask you, will you give? And Dasharatha says, yeah, what is the question? Whatever you ask, I'll give you. There's no question. Because he even gave his kingdom, right? It's not like he says, what do you want? He said, no, I want Ram and Lakshman to come with me. Dasharatha was taken aback. They're mere boys. You want them to go and fight these Rakshasas? How is it possible? He says, no, ask me anything else. They're just kids. If you want, I will come, personally. Because I'm a Marathi, I can fight. I'll bring my whole army and I'll kill all the demons. So Vishwamitra Muni is like saying that, okay, seems like people in your Raghukul have started going back on their word. It never happened in your whole dynasty, but now I think you've started this new trend that you say something and then if it's not convenient, you take it back. So I think that's the new trend you've started. And so even Vasishta Muni, who was the court acharya for that whole kingdom, for Maharaj Dasharatha, he said, you cannot do that. I mean, this is not something which has ever happened where someone in your dynasty has given a word and just because it's not convenient, they take it back. So there's no question of Maharaj Dasharatha, but how can I send these two kids? I mean, and they are also, Maharaj Dasharatha loved Lord Ramchandra like anything. And there's no question of him sending him to the forest to fight these demons. So how is it possible? So Vishwamitra Muni said, okay, that's fine. I mean, if you don't want to honor your word, it's okay. I mean, I'll just accept that from now on, in your dynasty of liars, basically, that you will just think about the character of Maharaj Dasharatha. Although he was now wanting to do it, there was no question of going back on his word. And nowadays, it's not a big deal for us, right? We say something and then we always find an excuse for not doing something, or there's always a reason. Right? So we use our intelligence. So rationalization is one sannyasi in our conscious society. He's always Dhanurja Swami. He always says this, and it's a very wonderful statement. He says, rationalization is the service of the intelligence in the service of the false ego. So, using intelligence, if you rationalize, you're using your intelligence in the service of your false ego. You want to enjoy something which you know is probably not appropriate. Then you'll rationalize, saying, no, this is valid because of this reason, I need to do it, or, I deserve it, right? Who have worked so hard. Sometimes we also feel, oh, we should do bhakti, but not so much. Sometimes our family members or even friends or somebody else might say, who knew us before we came into bhakti, might say, yeah, before you were normal. What happened to you? Right? You should do bhakti, but not so much. You should do when you're older. You should do bhakti when you're older, or you should do bhakti in limit. Older, so what is the meaning of old?
After retirement.
Old means, the old means the time before you're about to die is you're old. Who knows when you're about to die? Can you tell me? Does anybody know? Nobody knows. So we could be old any day. Right? A young child may be older than an old man. Who knows? Right? So who has guarantee that they will live till 70, 80, 90, 95? Anybody has guarantee? So then if we start thinking that, okay, when I become old, I'll do bhakti, when you become old, something else will happen. And if you're not able to practice bhakti when our body is strong, our mind is strong, then how is it possible we'll start practicing bhakti when those things start becoming weak? How is it possible? And when nobody else wants you, that's when you want to offer yourself to Krishna. in in the Bhajagovindam song, the Shankaracharya sang, he sang one verse which goes like this. Angam galitam palitam mundam dashana vihinam jatam tundam vruddho yati gritva dandam tadapina munchati asha pindam. Which means, Angam galitam, body has become emaciated. Palitam mundam, the hair has fallen. Dashana vihinam jatam tundam. Dashana means teeth. The mouth has become without teeth. Vruddho yati gritva dandam. The old man comes holding a stick. Tadapina munchati asha pindam. That is what it is. Till then we will not leave asha, desires. So it's not about old people, young people, but the desires never go away. So thinking that I will fulfill my desires and then I will do bhakti will never happen. It's not ever going to happen. If you think that's going to happen, that's not going to happen. So practice of bhakti is urgent need, not something we will do tomorrow, right? Not next year, not next 10 years later. Right now, today, urgent. So Dasharath Maharaj, he realized no question of offending Vaishnava. He said, okay. And then Vasishtha Muni told Mana Dasharath one thing. He told him that, this Vishwamitra Muni, he was a Raja Rishi. He was a great king himself. And plus he's such a elevated sage that if he wants, he can kill all these demons in 1 second. With one mantra, he can kill all these demons. Why do you think he's calling Ram and Lakshman to go with him? Because maybe he wants to give them something. Because Vishwamitra Muni is more than capable of protecting himself and everybody else, and also more than capable of protecting Ram and Lakshman as children. So you don't have to worry about the children getting harmed. You can send them. Because being in the association of Vishwamitra Muni, they will only gain. So then Dasharath Maharaj was pacified. And so Vishwamitra Muni took Ram and Lakshman and he kept them in the forest for a certain period of time. And as he started associating with Ram and Lakshman, Supreme Lord Ramchandra himself, his temperament, because Vishwamitra Muni started as a king, as an emperor, and then he became a rishi. And so his temperament became more and more childlike, innocent. So the whole Leela talks about how Vishwamitra Muni's temperament became more and more childlike, which is why it's called Balakanda, of how Vishwamitra Muni's temperament became childlike. So we have to become childlike, not childish. There's a big difference, right? So if you're a lot of us are childish, but including myself, but we have to become childlike, which means innocent like children. And that is the whole temperament of. If you're childlike, then you become simple. You're not duplicitous. Much easier to do bhakti. Because you're always thinking in terms of what some person would say and so on and so forth. So that is a little bit of introduction to Ramayana. So this whole pastime of, and everybody knows the story, but I'm going to just zero in on the pastime of how Kaikeyi thought about banishing Lord Ramchandra to the forest. So some people might think that Kaikeyi was always inimical toward Lord Ramchandra. That was not the case. She had a lot of affection for Lord Ramchandra. So when she heard that Lord Ramchandra was going to be crowned as the king, the crown prince, she was extremely happy. She was so happy that she rewarded the person who gave that news to her with a big, diamond necklace or whatever she had. She rewarded that person. So she had a servant, maid servant. Her name was what? Mantra, right. And so Mantra came and started telling Kaikeyi, why are you so happy? You're so foolish. If Ramchandra becomes the king, then what will happen? Then Bharat cannot become the king. Then you will become the servant of Kausalya. So you will go from being the queen to become a servant. So you should not be happy. You should be sad? Why are you so happy? So, what we learn from this pastime is that regardless of our propensity, regardless of our thought process, the association we keep is very critical. The association we keep is very critical. And the whole concept of enjoying separately from Krishna, enjoying separately from Lord Ramchandra. So the moment Mantra thought that my enjoyment is different from Lord Ramchandra's enjoyment, the idea starts coming that somehow I need to do something separate from the Lord. The whole concept of trying to enjoy separately from the Lord is what we should try to avoid. And again, there are many concepts here. One is criticizing devotees. Simply by criticizing devotees, our propensity changes. So in this case of Kaikeyi, simply by hearing blasphemy, her mind changed. Simply by associating with somebody like Mantra. Although she had the utmost love for Lord Ramchandra and she had the association of the Supreme Lord, Lord Ramchandra treated her just like his mother. So she saw the Supreme Lord directly on a daily basis. And in spite of that, it's because she had association of someone who was inimical towards the Lord, her mind changed. So then, even as practicing devotees, how much we have to be careful of wrong association. If we think that we are so strong that even by wrong association we will convert the others, it's difficult. Then our sadhana, our bhajan has to be so strong. But bhajan is not that strong, it's difficult. You will get convinced. So we have to be very, very guarded. Because one time, there was one devotee who was reading Time magazine, and Prabhupada saw that magazine and he looked at it and said, "It is very dangerous. This magazine is very dangerous." Why? Because it practically convinces you that, just like not Time magazine per se, but any practically convinces you that materialism is what you need to do. And our mind is so fickle. Arjun says in the Gita, right, that mind is like a lamp in a windy place. It just goes here and there. So it doesn't take very long for the mind to waver. So proper association is very critical. So that pastime really teaches us that we cannot have any kind of wrong association. We'll talk about a couple other personalities and then we can have questions. The next personality I wanted to talk about in detail is Bharat Maharaj. So people think about Bharat Maharaj is, some mundane personality, but the whole concept of Bharat Maharaj is very deep. So when Bharat Maharaj, Bharata means one who has the capacity to take infinite trouble for serving the Lord. He has infinite capacity to take trouble. That is what it means. Consider Bharat Maharaj. And so when Bharat Maharaj, he had gone to his maternal grandparents' home when all this was happening in Ayodhya. And Kaikeya Pradesh is actually in modern day Russia. That's where it is, up north. So there's one devotee who always says that all the trouble in Ramayana caused by Russians.
Also, some parts of Iran, modern day Iran,
Yeah, so Kaikeya Pradesh is up north.
Okay, not Iran.
Gandhari was from Afghanistan.
Okay.
That is what maybe you're thinking about. So Kandahar is what Gandhar is, which is Gandhari was the daughter of the king of Kandahar from Afghanistan. So So when Lord Ramchandra had left for the forest, he went for the forest. And Dasarath Maharaj passed away because he couldn't bear the separation. So at that time, Vashishta Muni said, no, we cannot be with our king, so bring back Bharat Maharaj immediately. So the messengers went. In several days they reached Kaikya Pradesh and they told Bharat Maharaj that you've been asked to come immediately. So he asked what happened. Says, I don't know what happened, but you've been asked to come immediately. So he comes back. When he comes back, he sees all the signs of the whole city of Ayodhya is in despair. So it's like not very good signs. And then he comes and sees his mother. His mother is looking at him and she says, oh, I'm so happy you finally came. And so he says, what happened? He says, well, your father has left his body. Maharaj Dasarath is no more. So then he says, well, so he becomes very sad and he says, I want to see my brother Lord Ramchandra. Where is Lord Ramchandra? He says, no, I sent him to the forest. And Bharat Maharaj is completely shocked, saying, what made you do this? What made you think that I will want to become the king and send Lord Ramchandra to the forest? What was his idea? What made you think this? And he severely chastises his mother. At the same time, Shatrughna brings mantra and they decide to, and he was ready to kill her, but then, Bharat Maharaj says, no, don't do anything to her. So think about the personality of Bharat Maharaj. He could have very easily said, he was given this kingdom, he didn't do anything. He personally didn't do anything. He didn't send Ramchandra he didn't conspire. But he could have very easily said, now what can be done? Whatever has happened has happened. Right? So let me rule the kingdom. I don't know where Lord Ramchandra went. I don't know how I can find him. There is no contact. He didn't leave his. There's no cell phone. I cannot call him. Right? I don't know where he is. So why not just continue? So he could have easily justified in his own head that it's okay. Right? Sometimes we do that. Sometimes we justify in our own head that okay, something has come our way, so it's okay. We'll do it. Maharaj Bharat was not like that. So he recites a verse. He says a verse in Valmiki Ramayana. He says, Na mantaraya na matarasya dosho na rajan na ragavasya mama papa eva nimitta asit manam gatoya raghunandanasya. So he's saying, na mantaraya, not Manthara's fault. Because she is a maidservant, low class person. I cannot expect very high class behavior from her. She used her buddhi, whatever intelligence she had, and she did what she did. So I don't blame her. Na matarasya. I don't blame my mother because she got blinded by affection for me and she did something. I don't blame her also. Dosho na rajan. I don't blame Maharaj Dasarath because he was bound by vows that he gave to Kaikeyi, so he had no choice. He made some vows to her and he had to keep his vows. I don't blame him. Na Raghavasya, I don't blame Lord Ramchandra also because he is the Supreme Lord. He will never break principles. If he is asked by his father to go to the forest, he will go to the forest. So I don't blame him also. Mama Papa eva nimitta asit. It is only by my sins, my karma, that I am having to experience the fact that because of me, Lord Ramchandra has gone to the forest. And that is what his realization is. He says that it is only because of my sins that I am experiencing the result of having been the cause for Lord Ramchandra to go to the forest. So easy for him to blame other people. You can always say, well, what did I do? I was not even here. Typically, that's how we will react. It's not my fault. I was not even here. I didn't tell Kaikeyi to do this. But his realization is not that. He's like, they did what they did. But it's because of my papa that Lord Ramchandra has to go to the forest. That is the level at which Bharat Maharaj is. So then he immediately decides, no, we have to go to the forest. And bring back, this whole pastime of how Bharat Maharaj goes and tries to bring back Ramchandra, everybody knows. But I just wanted to make this point that what was Bharat Maharaj's state of mind? That infinite pain he was ready to take to serve Lord Ramchandra. When he met Lord Ramchandra, he said, "No, you have to come back." Lord Ramchandra said, "No, I cannot. I've given a vow, 14 years in the forest, I will stay." So he said, "Okay. If that is what you have decided, then I will rule as your servant. You will actually rule, and I will be your servant, and I will do whatever is needed to keep the kingdom going. When you come back, and you can take it back." And he was ready to take so much bhara. That's why it's called Bharata, bhara. He's taking that bhara, or the weight of this unwanted kingdom. He didn't want it, but still did the service. Did whatever is needed to do the service to the Supreme Lord, regardless of how he was perceived. That is the position of Bharat Maharaj. The two other personalities I wanted to touch on very quickly, and then we will stop. Next personality is Ravan. So Ravan was a great scholar. He was not like a demon with horns coming out around. He was a great scholar. Vedic scholar. But the idea is to enjoy the opulence of the Lord, Lakshmi. If you want to enjoy Lakshmi without using in the service of Narayan, that is Ravan Buddhi. So I've seen, so when they call the ISKCON people, sometimes they call us for some other, see, like they do want to do Lakshmi Puja, but they don't want to do Narayan Puja. And I wonder, how can you do Lakshmi Puja without doing Narayan Puja? If someone calls you and says, some Matajis are here, says, "Please come to our house for dinner, don't bring your husband though." Will you go? Then how do you expect Lakshmi Devi to go? How do you expect Lakshmi Devi to bless your home with Lakshmi if you don't want Narayan? Not possible. It's foolishness. So if you want Lakshmi without worship of Narayan, the same concept Ravan had. So then what does that make us? If that is our mentality? I'm not saying, Shastra says. Right? So that is Ravana Buddhi. That was his mentality. Using all his intelligence and knowledge to enjoy the opulence of the Lord without the Lord. That is Ravana Buddhi. So we can be all small Ravans. You don't have to be so, and we are small Ravans. We are not so powerful. But mentality is the same. So we should get rid of that mentality of trying to enjoy Lakshmi without service of Narayan. The energy of the Lord has to be used in service of the Lord. Any other use of energy is misuse of energy. That is what the Shastra teaches. So this Ravan, this whole pastime beautifully explained in Ramayana, where Ravan initially doesn't want to kidnap Sita and all that, but then ultimately Surpanaka convinces him and he says, "No, we should avenge me." So he goes to Marich, his uncle. Uncle is Marich. Goes to his uncle. Uncle is now retired. And so he goes to his uncle and says, "I want to kidnap Sita." And so Marich tells him, so I'm thinking that all the people, advisors that you have in your kingdom, somehow enemies have penetrated your ministry. Because only an enemy can give you such an advice, that you have to go and kidnap Lord Ramchandra's wife. Because anybody who's your well-wisher will never give you this advice. So no well-wisher can give you advice of kidnapping Sita. Not possible. But he says that, when this Lord Ramchandra was a young boy, like these boys, he'd come with Vishwamitra Muni to the forest, and myself and my brother Subhahu and Marich, so we too came, tried to make mischief, and he shot one arrow. And I fell 10,000 miles away into the ocean. And my brother was instantly killed. This was when he was a boy. Now he's a full-blooded Kshatriya. He's a full, adult. So when he was a boy, he shot an arrow, I fell 10,000 miles in the ocean. And I was also so strong. And now you want to fight him as a full adult? Who gave you this idea? He tells him that you have so many beautiful queens in your kingdom. Go enjoy. What is the problem? So Ravana says, okay, I think it makes sense. Goes back. That's when Surapanakanaka gives him more chavi and says, what is this? So he goes back. Right? And then this time he tells, now you listen to me. You don't preach to me, I'll preach to you. Says, either you do what I'm saying or I'll kill you. So Marich is thinking, okay, so either I don't do what he's saying and Ravan kills me, or I do what he's saying and Ram kills me. It's better to be killed by Lord Ramchandra than to be killed by Ravan. Because he's the Supreme Lord. If I get killed by the Supreme Lord, at least I will get moksha. But get killed by a demon, nothing will happen. I'll go back to hell. So it's better to be killed by Lord Ramchandra than to be killed by Ravan. That was the mentality of Marich. Right? That but getting killed by the Lord is better than getting killed by a demon. Now, as regular thought process, you may think that's a wonderful thing. But that is complete opposite of how a devotee thinks. A devotee will think that even if I go to hell, I cannot do anything which will give pain to Lord Ramchandra. A materialist thinks how he can be benefited. And his benefit was, if I go and do what Ravan is saying, Lord Ramchandra will kill me, which will benefit me. It may cause trouble to Lord Ramchandra, but it will benefit me by getting killed by the Lord.
Opposite of Jatayu.
Yeah, opposite of Jatayu. That's why I wanted to bring the point of Jatayu. So, this whole concept of how Ravana thinks is given in the Gita, chapter 2, verse 60 to 63. Talks about Dhyate Vishayam Punsam, Sangas Teshu Pujayate, Sangan Sanjayate Kaman, Kaman Krodo Vijayate. Krodat Bhavati Sammoha, Sammohat Smuti Vibrahma, Smuti Vranshad Buddhinasho, Buddhinashat Pranashyati. This whole cycle is provided in that verse. So, Dhyate Vishayam Punsa, by contemplating on the object of the senses, that Ravana contemplated on Sita. Dhyate Vishayam Punsa, Sangas Teshu Pujayati, he became attached to object of senses. Sangan Sanjayate Kama, from that attachment, like Ravan. Temporarily we may have some enjoyment, but in the end, complete destruction will happen. Not worth it. And it's not like Ravan was some fool. It's a great scholar. It's like Hiranyakashipu, not some fool. Great scholar. When Hiranyaksha gets killed, Hiranyakashipu is telling his mother, Diti, and telling the wife of Hiranyaksha that all these living entities, they're born, they die, they come together for some time, they go away. The soul never gets killed. He gives perfect Shastra, just like what Krishna gives in chapter 2. But have you ever seen anybody give sapta on teachings of Hiranyakashipu? Why? Because the character is not there. The words may be okay. Character is not there. Similarly, Ravan was educated, but training character was not there. So simply mundane knowledge, education, gathering information is not really going to help us in any way. Bottom line, we have to understand how to become bhakta. Even monkeys were much more elevated because of service to Lord Ramchandra than becoming great Vedic scholar like Ravan. Right? The whole, in Valmiki Ramayana, there's a whole, and maybe some other day I'll speak on that topic. It's very interesting. How many monkeys were there? The whole detailed description is there. And I'll just give a number, something like 100 trillion monkeys were there. That was the number of monkeys. So, Shiksha Guru Garam Prabhu was saying that, if people say, so many people claim to be God, right? Ask them to control one monkey. Right? Forget about 100 trillion monkeys. Just control one monkey. You cannot even control one monkey. You cannot control monkey of our own mind. Forget about external monkey. Right? So, it's all like bogus. You should not fall in the trap of this person is God, that person is God. It's foolishness. And then look at Jatayu. Jatayu was, what kind of bird was he?
A vulture.
Vulture. Is vulture a very beautiful bird?
No.
In the social scale, if you think of peacock and and cuckoo and parrot and so on and so forth. Right? How does the cuckoo sing sweetly?
I don't know.
No? Cuckoo sings very sweetly.
I don't know what a cuckoo is.
You don't know a cuckoo bird?
I think that's cute. Cuckoo. I think that's what it's called. Cuckoo.
Yeah, it sings very sweetly. If you go home, ask your parents to put on the computer how a cuckoo sings. You can see.
It's really funny.
It's not funny, it's very nice, very sweet.
No, this name.
And a peacock is so beautiful. You see?
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, vulture, when somebody says,
More of a scavenger.
somebody says, he's majestic like a peacock, he looks like a peacock, he sings like a cuckoo, right? It's all considered compliment. Right? Koyal, in the word, koyal. Right? But nobody says, hey, you're exactly like a vulture.
Well, here the lawyers are like vultures. That's what
So it's not a very positive image, right? You don't say, exactly like a vulture. It's always negative. Like pig also, you never say like pig in a positive way. So, the vulture is such in the scale, not a very high animal, high bird. But when he saw Sita Devi being taken by Ravana, he immediately fought. He was very old, like 100,000 years old, apparently. Jatayu. And he didn't say that Ravana is taking Sita. I'm so old. I don't think I can fight with him. Maybe it's better for me to just see where he's going. Say when Lord Ramchandra comes, I can at least tell him correctly where he went. Because let me use my intelligence and let's not fight. Because I'm going to get killed anyway. He could have easily done that. But that's not the idea that he took. He wanted to serve even with his life. And was he successful?
No.
Was he able to prevent Ravana from taking Sita?
No.
Not very successful, right? He died. Yeah, he didn't survive. But in the grand scheme of things, do you think Lord Ramchandra thought, hey, he failed, so his service is not of much value? No. Lord Ramchandra actually performed the funeral rites of Jatayu just like he would do for his own father. Lord Ramchandra did not perform the funeral rites for Dasharath Maharaj because he was not there. But he performed funeral rites for Jatayu just like he would do his own father. So in the eyes of the Lord, whether you're successful or not is not relevant. You may think that success is like, oh yeah, I won. Arjuna is successful, Jatayu failure. But do you think the Lord thinks like that? That, oh, Arjuna won the war, Jatayu failed. No. So the idea Mundane thinking, we think success and failure become very confusing then. Because Lord Ramchandra was never thinking that, hey, Jatayu just totally failed. Loser. No. The personality of Jatayu was such. And of course, speak about Hanuman, then there's a whole, I can speak about Hanuman for 4 hours. There's a whole beautiful set of pastimes of Lord Hanuman. But it's maybe some other time. Because Hanuman Jayanti will come in a couple of weeks. Maybe some other time I'll speak on Hanuman. But this is some of the personalities in Ramayana and how they had their devotion to Lord Ramchandra. This one devotee, Shabari, whole life. Can you make it hot and bring it back? This whole life she waited for Lord Ramchandra to come. The devotees spend their whole life waiting for one opportunity to serve the Lord. We're thinking, hey, I've been coming to this program for 6 months, I've been chanting, nothing is happening. Right? It takes lifetimes of sincere service. Right? How many years it takes to become even how many years it takes to become a doctor? 25 years? No, I'm talking about from the time you start school. Like from kindergarten, first grade. And even then you know about one particular part of the body, right? I mean, you cannot do everything. Like just because, let's say you're a heart surgeon, tomorrow you cannot start cutting open somebody's brain and start doing some brain surgery. Right? It doesn't work like that. So even after 30 years of education, you know about one particular area. That too, if you're lucky, you know pretty well. And if patients are lucky, then that's so much. That's more like that. Right? But even to become like an engineer, right? 25 years. That too, you know one particular field. So I'm an engineer, but doesn't mean if somebody has a problem with his car, I have no idea what to do. Or somebody's bridge is not built, I cannot do anything about a bridge. Right? Or someone is a civil engineer, you tell him something else about something, he will not be able to repair an aeroplane or something like that. So our field is so narrow. So even to study something so mundane, material thing, it takes such a lifetime. For understanding how we can perform bhakti, it's going to take a little bit of time, a little bit of practice, a little patience. We should be a little focused. So I'll stop here. It's about 6:50. And I can take any questions or anybody has any comments or would like to talk about some very specific topic. I'm happy to discuss. Yes, Prabhu.
I just have a question, like, you said that Bharat, when he came back and everything was happening, and then he said, well, you cannot blame on this, and he takes all the responsibility and his, whatever his past sin or whatever he did. So how can we apply that on our personal life to, whatever happens, we sometimes try to get ourselves responsible for that. But, then it gets more complex than, rather than blaming somebody else.
Right, so we have to understand this whole concept at two levels, right? One is at the material level and at the spiritual level. So, one of the things that we learn as spiritualists as aspiring spiritualists, try to become humble. That I am the servant of the servant of the servant, and the das and das of the das. But if you go to the field of psychiatry, they'll think you have some self-esteem issues. They might prescribe you some medicine, some chemicals, which will get you more confused. So the idea is, there are three different levels of devotees. You have Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari and Uttama Adhikari. So the Kanishta Adhikari devotees are devotees who can see the deity of the Lord and understand that He's the Supreme Lord. We may not really understand the position of devotees. The Madhyam Adhikari, they're able to see the Lord, they're able to see the devotees, they're able to see the people who are innocent, and they're able to see the people who are envious. So they stay away from the envious people, they try to preach to the innocent people, they try to learn from the devotees, and then they worship the Lord. So they're able to see the distinction. When you get to Uttamadhikari stage, you don't see any distinction at all. Bhagavad Gita says, chapter 5, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shunichaiva Shupakecha Pandita Samadarshina. So at that level, they're seeing a dog eater, a brahmana, elephant and a cow at the same level because everybody has the super soul in their heart. They're seeing everybody equally. But doesn't mean that if somebody hurts us, we get hurt and we go back and get more punishment. That is foolishness. That is not humility. So this whole concept of forgiveness versus trust is very important. So, and I'll explain what that means. When in Shastra there are many examples. So I'll give you an example, practically speaking. Let's say somebody hurts us in a practical scenario. And we know very clearly that it's not something that we did, it's a behavior that other person exhibited. So as a devotee, it is a responsibility that we should forgive and not try to make revenge. Because it doesn't help us spiritually. The only reason for that is it does not help us spiritually, so there's no point in creating an escalation of that issue. So we are very eager and very prompt in giving forgiveness. But we withhold our trust so that we protect ourselves from being in a scenario where we can get hurt again. So then, it doesn't mean that we hold a grudge against that other person. We don't have a grudge and we forgive him, but we are not putting ourselves in a position where we're going to get hurt again. Because it's not helpful. So that's a scenario where you are understanding that whatever happened to you is because of karma and whatever else fault, right? So you're not assigning blame. But for the future, you're taking steps to ensure that that scenario doesn't hurt you again. Because if you did that, then it's not helpful either spiritually or materially. It's just foolishness. So there is no glory in getting hurt. That is how, when you become spiritually mature, you're able to distinguish between forgiveness and trust. I'll give you an example, a specific example. There's so many scenarios where in deity worship, right? You have to be very careful. Because you're worshipping BhaktiVriksha Lord. And if some senior devotee gives you some service, depending on you, and you make a mistake, you're supposed to open the deity door on time, or you're supposed to you're not predictable, you're not reliable, right? And then the authority says, what happened? You're supposed to do darshanarti at 7:30. What happened? You didn't come? And he says, no, I got held up or whatever. And but I'm very sorry. The authority will say, that's fine. It's okay. But next time, you will not get the opportunity to do that. Because it's deity worship. It's not something you can play with. So, they may forgive you, but they will not trust you again. Same thing we do with our kids, right? If the kids, they act in such a way that they don't act in a trustworthy way, we will forgive them. We will not, kick them out of the house or anything like that. We will still, but we will always verify. Right? Trust but verify comes at that point. That if they've proven themselves to be unreliable, then we will always verify. If they say, I went to this friend's house, you'll just call that friend and say, hey, is this my son there or my daughter there? You'll just make sure. This is a check. There's trust but verify. So, there's a difference. So, in that scenario, Bharat Maharaj, by blaming But next time a scenario like that, he will not trust mantra with some very important activity which she needs to execute. Because she's already proven her level. And he's saying, na mantraya na matarasya. Because he knows my mother is not capable of thinking logically and based on what is right behavior. She's going to be blinded by love towards me and she's going to do something crazy. So I cannot trust her in a scenario like this where I'm giving her an act which she has to do which will require a lot of judgment. Same thing, he's not going to give mantra a high post saying, hey, you know what, I forgive you so you can become the minister now. No. Because he knows her ability to think is at that level. So there's a big distinction between trust and forgiveness. And as, if you don't think deeply about it, you confuse the two. And you think that because I've forgiven, I should also trust. That is not correct. The Pandavas never trusted Duryodhana. They forgave him for all the stuff that he did. But they never trusted him. It's not like, Bhima never trusted him. But they forgave. Theek hai. Forgiveness. Another beautiful example. Kamsa. He killed all the children of Devaki. Finally, the eighth child was actually Mayadevi. When she went up in the sky and said, fool, the one who is to kill you is already born somewhere else. He became really scared because he was a worshipper of Mayadevi, Durga. And then he went and begged forgiveness to Vasudeva and Devaki. He said, actually it is not my fault. It is all because of karma all this happened, So it is not my fault. Vasudeva Devaki, they forgave him. They immediately forgave him. They said, that's fine. You begin begging forgiveness, it's okay. But do you think Vasudeva trusted him? No. Why? How do you know that? Because he never told Kamsa, I thank you for saying sorry. Actually, my son is in Gokul. Did he say that? No. He never trusted him. Although he forgave him, he never trusted him. So, forgiveness is a sign of your spiritual elevation. But blindly trusting is a sign of lack of intelligence. Right? Just because you're a devotee doesn't mean you trust everybody and everybody fools you. That is not a sign of devotee. You still have to be vigilant. Because there are all sorts of kamsas out there. Right? Does that answer your question? Yes.
Guruji, when incidents like these happens, there is a urge to correct the person. Like you always think like you have the ability or you are right and you can correct that person. How to manage that?
Yeah. Everybody hear the question? So how do you correct if you want to correct? So my spiritual master has actually talked about this subject very detailed, so I can really tell you this subject very lot of detail. Arna Swami speaks about this quite a bit. That there are many things that have to be in place before you correct somebody. Right? You have to ask yourself first of all that am I correct? Even criticism, right? If you're criticizing somebody, are you criticizing somebody because, or correcting somebody because, first of all, genuinely you want to help that person, or you want to show that you're better? That is the first question you have to answer. Most of the time, this is unclear. Because you have opportunity, it has nothing to do with genuine desire. You have opportunity to criticize. Yes. That is first question. Second question is, do you have the authority? Morally and spiritually, you have the authority to do that. Right? And the third is, have you invested enough in that relationship that the other person will actually accept your input in a positive way? The answer to all three questions has to be yes, only then you can connect. Maybe you have the authority, but you have not invested in the relationship, right? Like most of you I don't have deep relationship with any of you. I haven't met you that much time. So if I come and give you some like major correction in your life, you will not accept it. So what is this person saying? But if there's an investment back and forth, right? In the relationship, then you can say something. Then you have to have the authority. The other person has to recognize that authority. And then most importantly, you should genuinely have the best interest of that person in your heart. So unless all three are true,
Then how would we, to Prabhuji's first question, how do you protect yourself next time, let's say?
protecting yourself is different from giving advice to others.
No, but I'm just saying, like, how would that happen then? Like, you're protecting yourself, meaning you have to see that this situation doesn't happen in the
So
future.
there are some scenarios where there are some people who are best avoided. Sometimes there is no other way. There are some individuals that you say, okay, you know what? You don't want to escalate a problem, but best to avoid. In an abusive scenario, best to get away from that scenario.
But what if you're not in that position, like to avoid, but you have to confront it? And I mean, in a job scenario, I'm not saying like, I mean, let's say just face it, we have to have this.
There's always, it's hard to give a generic answer to a very vague question. So,
I mean, but, I'm just saying like, I mean, to avoid these situations. I mean, just wanted.
bottom line is we can always pray to God, like give him some buddhi, him or her some buddhi. But using our actions also, we can at least not escalate the situation. That is one. And second point that I learned from one devotee is that you got to realize that this person has nothing else in his life except do all these things. We have Krishna. We can come back and shut that whole thing out and then focus on spiritual life, which is so much more positive and beautiful. We can open Bhagavatam and we don't care about what that person said or what email he sent. It's irrelevant. In the grand scheme of things, this means nothing. So we have that outlet, which is like really a huge opportunity. Other people are petty because they don't have any outlet. This is their outlet. Making you look bad in a meeting or something is what he gets. Is for us, no, we don't care about all that. Because we understand that no matter how much you please people in the material world, ultimately they'll be displeased. You can never please them. The only person we want to please is Krishna and his representative. That's all we want to do. That is where we seek our happiness is what it comes down to. Right? Are we seeking our happiness at the workplace? Are we seeking our happiness with devotees? And of course, it becomes sometimes more difficult when you have challenge with devotees, and then you have a spiritual master or somebody else who can help you with it and stuff like that. But in general, if you have issues with non-devotees, it's very easy. You deal with it saying, okay, that is their realm. It's fine. You can be happy. When do kirtan, we are so happy. They are missing all that. They have nothing in their life. Anybody else? Any other questions? We'll stop here. We'll do Aarti. Some adults should sing. Kids will not be able to sustain. What is Puneet's central brothers name? Abhishek Prabhu. What? Wife was not here. Take your email. Abhishek.
Akhilesh.
Achilles. Yeah, Achilles. Sing Kirtan. Huh? Puneet, you want to sing? Both of you take turns and sing.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Name Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Jaya Sita Ram Jaya Sita Ram Sita Ram Jaya Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Jaya Sita Ram Jaya Sita Ram Sita Ram Jaya Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Gaurani Jai Jaya Gaurani Jai Gaurani Jai Jaya Gaurani Jai Jaya Jaya Gaurani Jai Jaya Gaurani Jai Gaurani Jai Jaya Gaurani Jai Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Kishore Kishori Jaya Kishore Kishori Kishore Kishori Jaya Kishore Kishori
Divine grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada. Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Namacharya Sridhar Thakur ki. प्रेम से करो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम सुंदर राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन धाम जगन्नाथपुर पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र धाम मायापुर धाम गंगामयी जमुनामयी भक्ति महारानी की समवेत भक्त वृंद की रामनवमी महामहोत्सव की Running BhaktiVriksha की जय। All glories to some of the devotees. All glories to some of the devotees and all glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Namaste
भगवान की
लाल महाराज की जय गौर प्रेमानंद
हरि प्रभु की
महाप्रसादे गोविंदे नमो ब्राह्मणे विष्णवे सबको पुण्यवतम भजन विश्व में विजयते सुखम वीर Garamati Jivayati Sapano Shurmati Kendrakati Samsare Krishna Pama Joya Moy Gori Gori Jivate Swapahare Hilobai Shri Anya Krishna Pava Radha Krishna Gunatau Pramita Kosha Jananitai Tejanmani Tejitai Teji Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Vyadvita Kajathai Srimati Gaurabharinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Now, next we get Ram over You missed fast.